So
let's
where
get
does
on.
Reza
Yeah,
Pahlavi
yeah.
fits in? Where does he fit in? Does he? You reckon he could establish some control?
So when all of these were taboo, Reza Pahlavi actually went to Israel, and before at that point, talking about Israel as an ally was still considered to be seen by many Iranians as taboo. And I think Reza Pahlavi had a huge influence in breaking that taboo among a lot of Iranians, and a lot of Iranians started celebrating Reza Pahlavi, a leader of the basically within the Iranian opposition, going out and meeting with the Netanyahu and other Israeli officials, showed to many Israelis how many Iranian people see, um, believe in a leader that wants friendship with Israel. So I think that was eye-opening moment for a lot of Israelis. So it's not just some random people on social media celebrating Israel. So Reza Pahlavi is the most popular political figure that is in opposition to the Islamic Republic. Like nobody else comes. I know some people like him, some people don't like him, but nobody comes close to Reza Pahlavi, not even remotely close to Reza Pahlavi when it comes to popularity among the Iranian people. So having such a popular political leader go to Israel to meet with Israeli officials, opened the eyes to made everybody realize that Iranian people celebrate a man who wants normal relationship with Israel. So that was eye opening. And also Israelis. I noticed Israeli officials are getting closer and closer with Reza Pahlavi, and it might make a lot of them feel more comfortable with regime change because there does seem to be somebody that you could either as a symbol or as a leader. There is something that people could gather around. There is a face, there's a figure that could cause some sort of unity, at least among half of Iranians. Again, there are a lot of Iranians who are anti the regime who might not like Reza Pahlavi, but again, there is nobody else that comes even close to Reza Pahlavi when it comes to popularity. And again, that's usually enough. You don't need like 90% of Iranians to believe in you for you to be able to create a political leader where people could come around and create some sort of stability, having 50%, 60%. And I suspect just like how fast Iranian people's mindset shifted from not wanting foreign intervention to now celebrating Israel. And to be honest, the reason why that mindset shifted is because it was just too hard to miss out on celebrating Israel just kicking ass. Like I think the main it's IDF and Mossad that deserve all the credit for why Iranians are now many of them are completely on Team Israel. It was just too cool. It was just too Hollywood. It was just too 007, and it was the Islamic Republic officials could like their ass were being it was constantly being handed to them, and people want to be on a winning team, and people were like, yeah, this is fantastic. Our enemies are helpless, they're pathetic, they're weak, and the people who are doing that are the Israelis. So yeah, fuck it. I love Israel. I celebrate Israel. So please, Israel, keep doing these things because the fear that you see in the eyes of the like IRGC members or these mullahs or the infighting or the or the inferiority complex because these are the people who the way that they treat the Iranian people is like they're like monsters. They have a top down view of these people that you could do anything with. So for them to see things happening to them, like Khamenei had to go hide in a hole just recently. And a lot of Iranians feel like, you know what, they're feeling the fear that they made us feel for so many years. You know, the fear that they might die, the fear that they have to hide. This is how many Iranians people had to feel for so many. The Iranian people that come on social media talk and they hide themselves. They wonder if their activism could get them in trouble. Now they have to. Khamenei has to live with that fear. So they're celebrating that. Actually, I have a good meme for this, so I'm gonna share that. But yeah, go on, but like go get that meme.
The reason why we're talking about this is obviously, let me give you a bit of a rundown, because we are expecting an imminent strike, and we'll discuss what those strikes could be from Israel on Iran, because Iran, and I mean, I need you, I would welcome your thoughts on this. In my opinion, Iran had three options in the wake of Hezbollah's assassination: or either do nothing and then keep getting and then get trolled by Muslims from all over the world on social media for for chickening out and not doing anything and only being paper tigers, etc. But that would have died out after some time. The second option would have been, I think some people were discussing that America might offer them some sort of a nuclear deal just to de-escalate things. I don't know how realistic that was. The third option was to actually attack Israel. And because they reacted or acted so quickly, if you remember last time when Israel attacked IRGC's generals in Damascus, Iran waited for about a week or so, and then there were a lot of negotiations taking place behind the doors. But now, this time, I think, 3 or 4 days after they attacked Israel, it looks like nothing really was going anywhere, and Iran took uh, the nuclear option, not literally, but they took the nuclear option. They went for the hardest one. Did they have any other two choices? If you're saying that they're really scared of Israel's retaliation, and I think they have politically they've made a blunder because they've actually played right into Netanyahu's hands, because Netanyahu has been looking for an excuse to attack, to escalate even more. I think he said it, escalate to de-escalate, whereas it was America who was holding Netanyahu back. That do not escalate, do not escalate. So he must have been under a lot of pressure. But after this, after launching 180 ballistic missiles, no cruise missiles, no drones like they did in April, this time they wanted to hit as many people as possible, as many targets as possible. So they've played right into the hands of Netanyahu, who now I think America, Canada, even Britain, all of them are saying, well, yeah, you have a right to respond. And I think, and then we're going to discuss which options, what options does Netanyahu have on the table. Do you think these three? Do you think that Iran could have gone with the first option at least? Do not take any action and keep pushing for its proxies to do something, or it just lost all hope because Hezbollah's top leadership has been decimated inside 2 weeks?
Yep. So here's the thing: the Islamic Republic officials, I know because they're mullahs and they're religious and stuff, we want to believe that they're all idiots, but they're not. They have to deal with multiple threats, and they understand what threats they're dealing with more than other people who are judging them, right? The problem is that a lot of people do not see the internal threats that the Islamic Republic is dealing with. They're only looking at, because we're looking from a foreign politics kind of lens, we're looking at the threats to the Islamic Republic. We either see it as the people protesting in the streets or Israel coming and attacking the Islamic Republic of Iran. But there's a third threat to the Islamic Republic, which is greater than these two. And the reason why Islamic Republic had no choice but to respond was because of that third threat, right? The third threat was the regime's own supporters turning on the regime. And these people were turning more on the regime for two reasons: the hijab and Israel, right? Because these are hardliners that the regime has basically created itself for it to have a base. And remember, when I said that they have only an 8% base left, if this 8 turns into 6 and then to 5, I mean, even a dictatorial regime will not be able to survive with like 3% support, right? That's the last pillar that they have. They cannot lose that. They have to maintain their base. These are people who said they have bled, they have given martyrs, they have done the Islamic Revolution, they have died in many wars for this regime, to have a strong Islamic state that upholds Islamic law and stands strongly against the enemies of Islam and for Palestine, right? And so for this regime to be too weak and pathetic, so not to be able to enforce the hijab laws, or to be able to respond to Israel, will make these people think that they do not have an Islamic regime, that maybe they actually should bring an Islamic regime, because this is not an Islamic regime. And the internal threat, the fact that they have this division internally, is the greatest threat to the regime, and this is why the two blades of the scissor that is cutting this regime are the women of Iran and Israel. So these are the two things that the women of Iran who are removing their hijab and is making these religious people, the religious hardliners, turn on against the regime, and Israel basically at doing whatever they want against the proxies of the Islamic regime, and them not being responding. These are the two blades that are basically making this internal threat bigger threat. So the reason why the Islamic Republic had to respond was because, as much as they're afraid of a retaliation from the IDF, they are more afraid of a retaliation from their own hardliners. They are more afraid of that, so they have to choose between the lower threat. And again, when they attack, they are hoping that they could design an attack where, for internal consumption, they could create a form of propaganda that acts like they're very, very, very strong, but at the same time somehow do an attack where Israel might consider responding in a way that they could deny that a response happened. For example, that's what Israel gifted them the last time, right? So last time when the Islamic Republic threw 300 missiles and drones to Israel, and it didn't kill anybody in Israel. They didn't kill any. It always kills an Arab or a Muslim outside of Israel, but never kills anybody inside Israel. Last time it killed people, Muslims outside of Israel. This time
Yeah,
it killed one
a little
Muslim.
girl died in that case. Yeah, I remember that.
No, no. Last time a little girl, a little Muslim girl was injured inside Israel, but outside of Israel, some Jordanians died from these missiles. Right. This time, two people were injured in Israel, but only one Palestinian died in the West Bank. About a Palestinian who had run away from Gaza because of for his safety. He ran away from Gaza to West Bank, and the missile. I don't know if you saw the video.
Yeah, I
It
saw that.
didn't. It was even for. It wasn't even from explosion of the missile. The missile basically just dropped on his head. So it was weird. It was crazy.
It was actually
So
intercepted. So it was a shrapnel.
So it was intercepted, and the shrapnel just hit on his. Yeah, okay. So it hit on the head of the pilot. They just managed to kill Muslims every time they attack Israel for some reason. Yeah. So last time when they did that, Israel responded by, in a very targeted way. They had an S-35 shoot a missile from outside of Iranian border, went all the way to the heart of Iran in Natanz, next to the nuclear facility that Iran has, and it took out the radar section of the Iranian S-300, which is Iran's greatest defense mechanism, which is supposed to be able to see everything coming at it, and it didn't see that missile coming at it until it exploded, which is bizarre. Basically, Israel demonstrated that they have the capacity to reach everywhere within Iran without the Iranian defense systems noticing that. So Israel managed to show its deterrent capability, show the Iranian regime, the Islamic regime, what it's capable of, but it was so precise and targeted that the Islamic Republic felt like, okay, there was not a huge explosion somewhere, so I could basically deny that anything special happened, and I don't have to retaliate. So Israel managed to show the regime that, look what I can do, but also let's end it here. This is what the Islamic Republic wants, that form of because it knows that Israel will retaliate, but it hopes that it retaliates like that this time, so it doesn't have to retaliate again in response. So we don't know what's going to happen right now. The Israeli regime has promised that the retaliation is going to be huge, but again, right now, here's an interesting thing that happens every time
We
the
will
Islamic
talk
Republic.
about